welcome back to this week's vlog.
Look at this. I had my fish last night. Didn't shut the lid by the tiniest crack, and one of my silly hatchet fish has managed to jump out and die, basically. It's landed on top of the lid, dehydrated and died. But look at these amazing fish. Freshwater fish from South America. Look at the deep keel on that animal. Massive muscles, massive pectoral muscles, huge pectoral fins, and it enables these fish to fly like the marine flying fish. If they're frightened, they'll jump out of the water, use their tails as propulsion, and their lovely huge long pectoral fins will whir as they actually fly across the surface and land somewhere else, hopefully avoiding those predators beneath them. Anyway, check them out when they're alive because they're gorgeous.
So I have just come down to the reptile house, and our second clutch of milk snake eggs are actually hatching. I thought you guys might want to see. So I don't want to disturb them and open the lid because I don't know if you can see, but one or two are still just peeping out. But from what I can see, we've got one or two apricot ones in there. They all look like a good size as well.
A bit more progress for you guys that have been following the vlog. The wildlife photography pond around the back here. So what have we got? How many stages? So marked out, dug out, lined, and now we've edged the liner with soil because this is naturalistic. We don't want paving slabs around it or a crazy paved rockery. We're going to get this looking as natural as possible. Yet it looks like plastic in a hole full of water. Still, keep watching this space as it grows and changes as we naturalise those edges. One thing's interesting, it's had water in it for a couple of days. We've already got various gnats flying around, laying their eggs. They're the famous bloodworms, harmless and a great food for all aquatic life. And somewhere in there, and I've lost it now, it's a water beetle. What a lot of people don't realise is, as well as the terrestrial beetles, most of which can fly, so do water beetles as well, and that's one way they get from one pond to another. So brand new fresh pond, already, life is appearing on its own. I've said it before, if you can justify putting a pond in your garden, it will be the biggest wildlife focal point you will get in your garden. Absolutely amazing how life is drawn to a pond, even the size of a washing up bowl sunk in the ground with a little pondweed in it. You will get aquatic life come to you. Absolutely thrilling. Anyway, watch this space as it develops. You might remember those mullein moth caterpillars from last week's vlog. Look at the size of them now. Ooh. Look at that beauty. And as discussed, despite being munched by these guys, if I say the word guys one more time, my wife is actually going to slap me on these videos. Despite being munched by these juicy caterpillars, the plant is still thriving. Natural balance. It's still managing to push up its flower spike, which is all it needs to do to produce seeds and replicate itself. The caterpillars are munching it, but they're in balance with it. They're not killing their food plant. There's not enough of them on there to destroy the whole plant. I love caterpillars. Get your kids outside, get them looking for caterpillars. That's an order. Now, those of you guys that have been following the vlogs or keep an eye on the Icarus Falconry page, you'll remember that for the bulk of the last 3 months we've only had one staff member in at any one time due to lockdown and social distancing. And you'll also know that we've obviously started to relax that now, gearing up ready for July opening, and that means volunteers are starting to be allowed back in and so on and so forth. So realistically, to keep the place actually running well, of course the birds and livestock are the focus. The garden is really Dave's folly and beautiful place for our guests and the guests of Holden Gardens as well to enjoy. But of course, with no one here to enjoy them, prioritising means the garden work, the weeding and so on and so forth has been kept on top of, but only to a minimum amount. For cosmetics, we can catch up really quick, and one of those things is, well, the pond here, a lot of duckweed, but that's a 5-minute job to clear that off of there. And the avenue, once those cherry trees drop their blossoms, they make a heck of a mess. And one of the key volunteers that isn't here is our volunteer gardener. He's busy enough, and he's also had to social distance. So actually, it doesn't look as bad on here as it does in real life. You've got all the blossom falling onto the gravel walkway, and it's rotted down into a kind of mulch. It looks a mess, and of course it will turn into soil, and we don't want that on gravel. So Dave here has drew the short straw. So you can see we're raking up into piles, and look, because of the humus in there from the blossom, you can see the weeds have grown rampantly. So they've got to come out too. So as I always say, running any sort of animal area, any falconry centre or even a zoo, massive amount of work actually go into keeping the place looking good and the place in good condition, just as much as it does looking after the animals themselves. So have a little sneak preview out here. This is the gateway from the Holden Gardens into the falconry centre, which normally you can't just waltz in from the gardens, but we're looking to all kinds of things in the very near future. Look at that, absolutely gorgeous setting. The Holden Gardens, well worth a visit, and they're just a beautiful, peaceful place to spend some time. So Matt, the head gardener, he's kind of keeping on top of his garden far more than I've kept on top of the falconry centre garden. But don't you worry at all. That will all be rectified well before our wonderful guests come back to visit. Keep watching the rest of the vlog, because I honestly don't know what's next. So much going on. Thank goodness we're getting out the doldrums, and there looks like some kind of future waiting for us just around the corner. And we'd love to see you guys as part of that near future, enjoying our birds and flying them with us. So I've just been putting a little bit of weed and water plants out of our raised ornamental pool to move to the nature pool. And look at these beauties. Dragonfly larvae. These are what a dragonfly starts its life as, and in fact lives most of its life as. The aquatic larvae, and these are pretty cool predators. Whoa, mouth parts out of a science fiction film. A mask that shoots forward and grabs other aquatic organisms, tadpoles and small fish, before devouring them. What a cool thing to have in your pond. An ultimate predator of the mini beast world, and just as ultimate, if not more so, when it changes into the adult form, the dragonfly, with flying skills to match just about anything on Earth. Fantastic creatures, and that's why ponds were just so cool to have, the wildlife they attract. Let's pop this guy, whoops, back into the pond. So for those of you guys that don't know, when a snake sheds its skin, all being well, it sheds it in one piece, and it's just like peeling off a football sock or a pair of tights or something. So it peels off in one piece, but ends up inside out. Starting at the nose or the head, the snake rubs its nose and head onto something a little bit abrasive like a rock or a bit of wood, breaks the skin right on the nose end. That splits open and it peels it off from the head all the way off the tail. So here's some of those mullein moth caterpillars. They're really starting to munch away now at these plants. Look at that. Like I said before, these caterpillars, these moths, they're really common. They're everywhere really. They'll be around where you live in England for sure. But have a look. They're beautiful. Well, it really doesn't take much to get outside, take your children or your grandchildren or your nephews and nieces and poke around in the bushes. Now this is what you're looking for if you want to go caterpillar hunting. Obviously you're looking for leaves that have been nibbled. Now generally I look for leaves for caterpillars that have been nibbled around the edges like this. Although these are made holes in, a lot of other animals make holes like beetles and things as well, but well nibbled leaves, and especially look out for the caterpillar poo, because if you can find caterpillar poo somewhere above there, there has been or is caterpillars munching. What a great find. And I can tell you now, there's some caterpillars in Britain that make these look boring. Some of them have a real wow factor. Go and see what you can find. Again, completely free, even in cities with trees down the main boulevards and bushes and shrubby areas for landscaping. Go and have a look there, you'll find some great stuff. Anyway, work to do. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, like and subscribe and turn that little bell notification on. Thanks guys.